Hey, what is going on? How are we doing today?
Hey Chris, how's it going?
Good, good. Uh, 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 how are you, sir?
I am honestly a little bit under the weather. It's like being sick a little bit this week, but good
Uh,
enough for today. So
sure,
happy to be
fall is
here.
setting in. You're starting to get
Yeah, it's like I have a 1.5-year-old baby, so anything the baby gets in the nursery, I get at home. So that's what's going on.
oh, yeah. So until I think it's age 13, be prepared. It's every 6 weeks. They seem to bring home something. And
Don't I know it? So how are you doing?
oh, I am doing absolutely fantastic. Last night we had a great user group in Madison. We live streamed it. We um, went deep on using Git and Power BI projects, so PBIP. It was the first. I mean, that was one of the first really good demos I've seen someone do on that. I mean, outside of like a Microsoft rep. So it was really good. Yeah. Oh, hey, Jack. What's going on, buddy? And we've got Chad over on LinkedIn. Exciting to see you over there. We've got a good following over on LinkedIn. We actually have more people on LinkedIn right now than we have on YouTube. How
Oh,
exciting.
neat.
So that's interesting. And we've got people on X streaming it too. So
Wait,
good to
so
see everyone. You know.
So you stream on X as well as so Twitter, well, X now has like some kind of streaming options as well.
Yep. Yeah. So you can stream to YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I played a little bit with Twitch. That did not go great. But yeah, there's you can stream to all sorts of places now.
Look, I'm not gonna lie. What basically my origin story for why I'm a wait, hang on. Am
Oh,
I?
you froze.
Oh wait, hang on. Let's
Yeah, there we go. In and out. Oop, still frozen.
okay. So all right. Awesome. This always happens. So let me
Yeah.
reset this.
All right, we'll see you in a second. Jack, what's going on? Yeah, this is going to be a good one here. Be able to like integrate this natural language generation and what we're doing inside Power BI or any tooling really. It's really transformative. And if you haven't played with it, honestly, I've been using Bing Chat or Chat GPT on like a regular basis, like daily. Oh, and he's back. So
Just gotta switch the cameras, like that's why you got two.
yeah.
Okay, great.
Good deal. Oh, now I mentioned I started attempting to stream on Twitch, and it didn't go great. Have you done any Twitch streaming
Okay,
before?
yeah, so this is actually my origin story that nobody knows about, which is that I'm a YouTuber. I have this microphone, and it's like I have a lot of stuff from the days where I tried to be a pro gamer on Twitch, which did
Ah.
not work. So, so I had to choose something easier like Power BI.
Oh, that's awesome. I am sharing your YouTube channel over on all of our everywhere we're streaming. So do check it out. You make some incredible videos. And so I saw you did one on generative AI, or you had to post on that. I'm like, oh my gosh, gotta get you on the show to talk about that. So
Well, I'm really excited to be here. It's like hopefully we'll have some questions about, where and some presentation about where and when you can actually use it,
mm,
because honestly everything I'm going to show today is going to be like an appetizer. Like the real meat of what things are going to be is probably going to come from Copilot, but
okay.
since most of us don't have access to that, we got to make do with what we got.
Yep. But before we get into that, we did a little bit of your origin that you started streaming on Twitch. But I'd like to take a further step back to 5-year-old. And actually, hang on before we move forward. Uh, how do you pronounce your name?
So think New Jersey, NJ, easiest way to think about it.
Oh, Injae. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Injae. All right. That's easy enough. Okay, so when Injae was 5 years old and Injae wanted to be a firefighter or superhero, how did you go from 5-year-old NJ to NJ, former Twitch streamer, current YouTuber, big Power BI guy. How'd you get that? How'd you make that work?
No, honestly, it's like okay, so 1 minute origin story about, it's like my whole, shtick is that I am born in Korea, so I am Korean, but when I was 5, I moved to Sweden and I became Swedish. So, it's
Mm,
like that's my nationality. And I lived in Sweden until I was 18. And then I moved to Glasgow, where I did my university studies in psychology and economics. And then I realized I don't want to become a banker and I don't want to become a shrink. So, then I moved back to Korea for a bit. I learned C++, and I was actually a software developer for about a year and a half. And then I met someone, and
okay.
she moved to Poland. And I also moved to Poland, and now I live here, and we have kids, and that's basically why I'm in Poland. But then afterwards, it was like the main thing was that when I moved to Poland, so I was a Swedish citizen at the time, but
Hmm.
I needed to get a job within 3 months, and I tried applying from Korea. And I got to tell you, the job market when you're halfway across the world is even worse than the job market when you're in the country. So, like, I sent like I think something like 200 CVs when I was in Korea, and it just didn't work. So, I just hopped on a plane. I got here, no prospects, no money. But then I managed to get a job, and I got a job fairly quickly. But I basically took the first yes that I got, which just happened to be a market data analyst. and
Okay.
and honestly, just kind of snowballed from there. It's like I was into Excel, and then I did VBA, and then I did Power BI, and now I do a lot of Power BI.
Did some Excel, the VBA, then Power BI. Now lots of Power BI. Let me know in the comments if that has been anyone else's experience, because I think a lot of people have gone down that road.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Now, moving from, I mean, grew up in the East, you moved to the West, bounce, go back and forth. How did that go for you? What was that like? What were your thoughts on that?
I mean, that's just kind of something that happened to me. I don't
Hmm.
really have any thoughts about it either way. But
Oh,
I will tell you that the day that I left the UK to go back to Korea was the day that Brexit happened. So I can tell you that the timing was really good.
it felt right.
I mean, there were signs, okay? Like,
Oh, and we have we're joined by one of my favorite people. John Otto is out. So if you have a Git repo, um, people over in Guatemala are looking for that. So
hey, look, you know what? I don't have a Git repo, but maybe I'll make one just for you, Otto.
all right. Otherwise, I have a Git repo that I post these in. So if you share it with me, I can send that out as well. So either
Ideal.
way, we'll find a way to get that out. Oh, and look at this. We've got Alexandra. Boy, we're coming in from all over the world this year. So, well, wait, she's right down the street from you, right?
I mean, you say that, but Katowice is like a different city, so a couple 100 kilometers.
Uh, it's much closer than it is for me. So
Yeah, Chris, where are you based anyway?
I'm based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The
So big
Algonquin
cheese.
tribe called, yes, Big Cheese. Cheese and beer, cheese and beer. That's what we attribute all of this to. So
Oh yeah, like
yeah.
hey, look, I'm in, it's like European, basically almost all the way through. Is it really true that like what is it? You guys are Packers, and you guys have like a really big. Okay, this is American football, guys. Like, you guys have a really big what is it? Rivalry with Vikings from Minnesota.
Yes, yes, yes. It's the Wisconsin Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings are huge rivals. Growing up, that was, my dad and grandfather were always like raging about that. I don't think anyone has a rival with Detroit Lions, Donald. I'm terribly sorry. I, that's just, they haven't won enough games to have a rivalry. I don't think so. Um,
Honestly, it's like that's one of the things that I think is very cool about American culture. Like, you guys have something that's so national, that's so like easy for people to get into, to meet people. And honestly, yeah, we have football, but if you don't like, well, I guess you call it soccer there. If you don't like soccer, then there's not that much.
Actually, we do like soccer. Soccer is one of the biggest growing sports in the United States. It just doesn't take as much of the like headlines um, of football in a lot of the news shows and stuff like that. But I mean, honestly, you go into any bar or restaurant, soccer will be on. I mean, if it's playing. So I mean, it's
That's pretty cool. I did
yeah,
not know that.
yep. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's soccer is very, very big, very big. All right. Um, so do you have a favorite soccer team
No, like
or?
I don't really
Uh,
follow sports. I mean,
yeah, I say I'm not a big sports ball person either. I said just let me know when the guy dribbles the touchdown until he makes the goal, and then I'll cheer for that. Someone
yeah,
laughed
but
because that mixes up 3 or 4 different sports. So
I think so. Sports is always about the vibe, though. It's like
yeah.
you can not follow sports and go to like a stadium and have a real great time just eating, drinking, and it's like being in the crowd. I think it's just a vibe, really.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yep. Yep. And like I've kind of got a rule. I never turn down a box seat. Right. If there's a box seat open, yeah, I will watch whatever it is that they are putting on. So I am in.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like the big sport in Korea is baseball. It's like, and it's just it's the national pastime. It's beer, fried chicken, baseball.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, okay. All right. Well, this is our Lunch and Learn live stream. So I guess I got thirsty. I jumped the gun. But so before we jump into it, we're going to pick up our glasses and we're going to do the collective little drink together as we kick off and we jump into it. So grab your glasses, grab your Cokes, your coffees, your Monster Energy drinks, whatever you got. And then we'll take a sip and we'll drive right into it.
All right, cheers.
Mm. Ah, yes. All right. So, what are we talking about today?
All right. So today, okay. So it's like I was talking about this. It's like a little bit earlier with a friend, and I was just trying to it's like understand what do I actually want to show in this presentation. And I gotta be honest with everyone. This presentation's something that happened because I was trying to do research whether or not generative AI is hype or whether generative AI is going to take my job as a Power BI developer. So that's kind of where I started from. But I can give you the answer right now. No, no, generative AI is not going to take your jobs, not yet anyway. But there are a lot of things that we can already, it's like see coming down the line. A lot of the presentation that I've done has been around ChatGPT. It's like OpenAI's code interpreter, which is now called the advanced data analytics, and that's basically what I'll be showcasing today. So,
Well, all right. I honestly, I've been very nervous about that myself. I use ChatGPT all the time, and excited to hear that it's not going to be replacing my job. So
yeah, well, hey, look, don't be too happy about that just yet. But
okay.
okay, so for everyone in the audience, you probably know this, but generative AI is part of deep learning, which is part of machine learning, right? And the big thing about generative AI is that it's just trying to guess what the next value is. So if you ask it a prompt like "What's larger, 5 or 7?" then it's gonna say 7, and then it's gonna guess that the next word statistically should be is, and then after that it should be larger. So 7 is larger than 5. That makes absolute sense. But one of the problems with generative AI is that honestly, if you're thinking about generative AI in this it's like way, what's probabilistic is it that you say 5 is larger than 7 or 5 is smaller than 7, and sometimes it doesn't always get the probability correct because it's something that's generative based on text.
Mm,
And it's like that's one of the big things. That's one of the reasons that we have so many issues in this first couple of iterations, ChatGPT 3.5, ChatGPT 4. And a lot of people have, I'm sure almost everyone in the chat has tried using, it's like ChatGPT. Chris, I know you have, but when it boils down to it, this is the main reason why we've been having issues. It's like you ask it for, some information and it hallucinates numbers, data, things like that. This is why it's doing that.
mm,
And, generative AI, everyone knows that, it's based on training. You put in data, and from that trained data, it tries to guess the statistical output based on the prompts that you give into it. And you know, if we're talking about what this can actually mean for us, then it's honestly pretty crazy. But if you take a look at what's out there right now, it's not super crazy. Like I've got a section here where I'm just talking about what the current, it's like a generative AI BI solutions are. And there's Microsoft Copilot, which, no one really has access to yet. I mean, some people do, but it's really in private preview. So unless you're paying big, big bucks to Microsoft, you probably haven't seen it. But there's like DAX generation, there's something like smart narratives, there's Tableau is also creating some kind of generative AI, which I think is very cool. It's like they've got something called Tableau Pulse, they've got Einstein Copilot, and in 2 weeks, give or take, D365 Copilot's going to drop with generative AI for Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Outlook, and that's going to be crazy. It's like I'm sure that's going to change the way that everybody works somehow or another. Okay, so this is like a screenshot. It's like that actually shows what's Copilot's supposed to look like. You're supposed to be able to, with some proper data sets, you're supposed to be able to create a report and modify the report based on text that you write. Sounds fascinating, but honestly, we're gonna have to see, because right now Microsoft has some generative AI, it's like items. There is this quick measure suggestions with Copilot that's already live. You can, access it. There's this thing that's been making the rounds on LinkedIn and YouTube, which is their Copilot summary, which is just another way of, giving some prompts in order to generate a data summary, which is very, very cool. But the fact of the matter is that we've already had something similar to this, to all of these things. Like the Copilot for the front end looks really great, but we have had something like a quick report since September, which honestly nobody uses. We have
I
had
use
quick
it
measures.
two to
You
three
have?
times a week. I'm telling
Really?
you, I I love it. I love the quick report, so I use it all the time.
Hey, look, you know what? Let me be the first to take back my words. Nobody except Chris uses it. And then like there we've got the quick measures, and then we've always had a smart narratives visual, like even I don't know, 2 years ago. And it's really great that they're trying to apply the generative AI functionalities into here, but we'll have to see how much value they'll actually bring, right? Like um, oh yeah, Christina, I fully agree. Smart narratives is really great. It's actually just something that's moved into the text box right now, as far as I remember. But
Hmm.
I honestly love this very, very much. It's very, very useful.
So one thing I did that was super popular is I created a report that was just smart narratives, nothing else.
Really? And
Like
did you do any modifying on them at all, or like?
yeah, some of that stuff there it was very customized, but it was just like it was like a page of just smart narratives. I think I put in like one visual, but that was it. And it looked like a newspaper, so it looked like USA Today. We called it whatever the company's name today, and executives loved it.
I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. At the end of the day, I think that's the personalized, not the personalized, the quick report does have like a lot of potential, but I think it really is based around how clean your data is. If your data is not that great and you just try to throw it into the quick summary.
Yeah.
I just saw Wilco's right. Nobody except Chris. Okay, yeah, but and like unless the data is like really, really like pristine, it's not going to do you that much good. And I think that's going to be the same for Copilot down the line. It's like Jay's just mentioned that yeah, Copilot's not going to work for a large data set in private preview. We don't know necessarily how that's going to look like when it's in public preview. I do think that in Microsoft Power Platform Conference, they mentioned that it was going to be only Power BI premium capacity that's going to have
Hmm.
it. So I think that's the P64 SKU.
Correct.
Right,
Uh,
right. So, it's like only at the
P1
capacity.
F64.
Okay, thank you very much. So
Yep.
P1F64, capacity. So it means that a lot of people who are, smaller companies aren't going to have access to Copilot down the line. It definitely is something that Microsoft is going to use to try to get more people onto the enterprise. But we'll have to wait and see to
Yep.
see, it's like how valuable it'll be.
That is very true. Marco last week has questions, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this works out, what it looks like.
Yeah, honestly, people say that they're very excited for it's like the front end for Copilot being able to change visuals and stuff, and I'm like, I really, that's my lifeblood. I really like doing the front end stuff, but at the end of the day, I really think that the value of Copilot is going to come from the back end, from Power Query, it's like Copilot, from SQL Copilot, from it's like ETL and things like that, because I really feel like that's the much more technically challenging part. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm very proud of it's like the front ends that I do make, but I don't think that's. I think that's like kind of a design thing, and I'm not convinced, to be honest. I've seen some of the PowerPoint designers and things like that. I've seen. We'll talk a little bit about what generative AI can do in terms of design, and it looks great. But I'm like, if the data's not right, it's never going to be worthwhile, right?
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's something that I really want to see shape out, because while I've seen a number of, like, people are able to create amazing visuals, like pictures and images, I've tried it and I haven't been able to do that. That was something that well, okay, that was 4 hours and it didn't give me anything what I want.
Yeah, like, okay, so here, let me show you some of the reports that I made. Okay, so like this isn't reports, but this is like some of the stuff that I asked DALI 3 on it's like OpenAI to make. So this is honestly I think the prompt is make a Power BI report that is simple, minimal, and vector design. Make it it's like dark themed with one highlight color. And look, these look fine, but are they actually something that I would use to, it's like give to the customer and, say this is it, this is the report? Honestly, maybe. There are customers who place a lot of value on the wow factor, and these definitely have wow factor. But will you be able to make a visual like this that actually is useful and valuable? That remains to be seen. It's like
Yeah,
Deneb has gone a long way, but we just gotta wait and see to see to where things are going. These are
yep,
some of the light mode ones that I made. Okay, so that one's dark mode, but like honestly, as far as things go, if you think about Gestalt principles, about spacing, about enclosure, things like that, it's not terrible at all. Like a lot of the ones that we used to see from Midjourney, it's like back when that was really popping off, like 6 months ago. A lot of the reports were being very, very overcrowded, and now as the visual generative AI technology is progressing, so is the opportunity to make different reports. If you're actually looking at something like this, right? I'm like, even if this in itself, okay, I'm not sure, I'm not so sure about the donut chart, but even if this itself was just one page and then this was one page, that would be plenty fine for most people in some situations.
yeah. I mean, I think that looks great. I think it's uh yeah, I think it looks great, but I question how I would use that in a business environment.
Now
You know what I mean?
this is definitely true, right? Because it's like you ask ChatGPT to make you a design, and it does, but that's not what BI is about. BI is about bringing value from it's like data, right? Like what is the value of looking at this for 5-10 seconds, right?
Right.
And if you really consider it that way, then well, we got to get into the rest of the presentation. Right, so let me get into that. So before I throw in to go into that,
Hmm.
the other BI, it's like things that are coming out. Tableau has something called Tableau Pulse, which is like AI metrics, which is really cool, but
Right.
is also something that we have seen, it's like something similar. Like even metrics in Power BI itself does have something like this, maybe not as verbose, but the fact that you can still, it's like make this with text is absolutely incredible. Einstein Copilot is also something that's going to be in Tableau, and it's going to help people make measures as well, just like DAX.
Okay.
And Microsoft has an open source, it's like software called Lida, and basically it's a infographics generator. So you can take with some CSV, you can basically summarize the data, explore what you want to do with the data, generate a visualization, and then alter that visualization into an infographic. So this is still very basic at this moment, but it's very cool that there is now software going to be developed specifically for the purpose of infographics. Not necessarily BI, but you can see how it does relate.
And we do have a question from Sahil. He's asking, Jay, does anyone know what the Power BI Q&A uses in the back end to generate answers from the data?
I think the Q&A is basically based around something that's called synonyms, and I think you need to specify in the data model specific synonyms of measures and columns, and you can basically ask for it's like specific things like what is the top it's like value for this or something like that. It's still not generative AI or something like this, but honestly that's about as much as I can say. Q&A is something that I've strayed away from ever since Microsoft implemented the double click. It creates a Q&A visual in
Right,
Power BI, and just from that one action I vowed never to use it because it's so annoying. Like
right.
the number of times that I've had to close the Q&A, it's like visual because it was something that I accidentally double clicked on the canvas.
Yeah, like, no, stop.
Like oh yeah, just all the time,
Not that right now, right?
passionate hate for Q&A, visuals.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And do you remember when it would like automatically generate tiles in a dashboard?
Yeah,
That was a whole
like
fiasco. I mean, it was like Gartner really liked it, so
I mean, look, you know what? As long as Gartner keeps putting Microsoft Power BI, it's like as the leader, it's like in the top right corner, it's all good, right? but
right, right, right,
but
right.
as a developer, that has been a very very obvious inconvenience in my life.
Yeah, yeah. And what I think one of the bigger challenges that I've had with the Q&A is that it didn't feel like they launched it twice. Like the first take, everyone got excited, and then they tried to use it, and it didn't work super well. So then it became really hard to get people to try it again when they relaunched it, and even the relaunch had challenges and stuff. So
Yeah, like it was tough, man. It was really hard to get people to, it's like really use it. But I guess it is what it is, right? And honestly, right now, I can very much see the demand for it is going to go up. Generative AI is a buzzword. They are obviously going to implement
mhm.
Q&A with generative AI. And once that does happen, it will be good. I really do believe that. It'll be a lot easier. I just, hope they'll make it easier for us to implement as well.
Well, fingers definitively crossed on that one, right? Um, yes. And so now let's talk about what are we doing? What is advanced data analytics? What are we
Oh
talking about?
yeah. I'm not gonna lie, Chris. Like I'm not happy with the it's like the way they decided to change the name. I really liked Code Interpreter, but now it's Advanced Data Analytics, and it's like that messes up the search engine optimization so much. Okay, but OpenAI, as everyone knows, right? Like before July 2023, it couldn't do math. It would hallucinate facts and numbers. It didn't have common sense, and it couldn't read files. But lo and behold, in July they released this code interpreter functionality, which is a beta feature only for premium members. So that means it costs $24. Well, $20, a month, and 24 if you're in Europe because you got to pay VAT on that. But basically, what can it do? It could start reading documents, it could execute Python, and it could do data analysis and visualization, and it could convert files between formats. But the one thing it couldn't do was it couldn't make dashboards. So I took this and I just kind of ran with it, right? Like, Chris, you might know that I'm an ambassador of the data DNA, it's like data challenge on LinkedIn. And
Oh,
with that
I
data
did
set,
not know that. Actually, no, I did. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. So and of course now, since the first, this is like the ninth iteration of this presentation, and since like since I wrote that slide, it can also they've released like vision integration, and it can hear your prompts, and it can generate images as well. Very cool, and we'll see why in a sec. But what I was going to actually show was, can it do data, exploratory data analysis, data modeling, visualization, and data storytelling? But the culmination of all of this was just me trying to answer this one question: can ChatGPT do my job? So as a Power BI developer, I decided I'm gonna make it do just one, it's like thing, one very simple thing, which is I'm gonna try to make it do mockups. And like basically the mockup was supposed to be centered around it's like uh, this data that we use, and because it's the data DNA challenge is something that I'm very close to. I just used the data set from there. I think this is from September, and this was hotel bookings data. The one thing about this data challenge is that it is for beginners, so it's always completely normalized data in just one table with with some data dictionary. And because it's hotel booking data, it's about when did this person book with an agency, for which hotel, etc. So just general hotel related data, which I honestly knew nothing about. So I was like, okay, what can ChatGPT do for me? So it could actually just, okay, for you guys to know, in the slides, the prompts are surrounded in red and the output's going to be surrounded in blue because it's so like, there's just so much stuff. And I asked it to do very, very simply explain the data set, find any issues or consistencies. The data itself is like 119,000 rows, so not so much, which is important because ChatGPT initially, when it came out in July with the code interpreter, had like a 500 megabytes size limit. I think now it's like 2 gigabytes, but it's still not big enough to do anything production level. So this was a really great, way of doing stuff. Oh yeah, Christian, I see your comment. Yeah, so a little bit of data modeling is going to come in a sec. And when it does the data import, it's really, really cool. It's able to like kind of look through what the data, it's like is saying.
Mm.
It's trying to identify that the data frame is empty beyond the 35th row. And that's because in the data set on the first page, it's only the data dictionary. So it's trying its best. I haven't told it necessarily that there are two different pages. So it's trying to iteratively go through through each row, each 10 rows, to see if it can find the data. And then eventually it just decides by itself to actually look to see if there are more sheets, and it's able to do that. It's able to find other sheets, which was, for a computer program to do that by itself with no prompting, was very, very cool for me. But still, that's something that any intern can do, right? It's like, look at a second sheet, whatever. Not that impressive from work standpoint. So then it starts to import the data, and everyone's probably already seen this. It starts to generate the Python code in which it's actually working. So it's importing data, and it's loading into a data frame, and it's investigating the data in this way. Really cool, fascinating. But what was a lot more interesting was that, of course, this exploratory data analysis can start, working, where it's starting to actually identify the data sets from the data from the second sheet, so the actual data itself. And if you can see here, it's something very interesting. The data is starting to be grouped together. So like the arrival, the time related items are basically being grouped together. The stays and weekend nights, or stays and weeknights, which is very similar data, is starting to be grouped together. Adults, children, babies. This is only grouped together just as an output, but it's interesting because if we are talking about data modeling, it's going to start making sense in just a sec. The exploratory data analysis continues, and you can remember this is only just one single prompt, which is just explain the data showing consistencies. And it was able to do some really cool stuff, like it's able to identify missing values, but it's also even able to explain possibly why. In agents and company, there's a whole bunch of missing values. Like there's 119,000 rows, 112,000 missing values from the company column, and it can even explain that it might be because obviously guests don't book through an agent and the company. It's usually either or. So it's able to start actually
Wow.
giving analysis on that, which is where the name comes from, advanced data analytics. But that really blew my mind. I was like, a computer program can tell me this? What else can it do? Okay, so then the thing that I gotta it's like specify here is that in whatever you're trying to do with ChatGPT, with generative AI, you got to be as specific as possible with the prompts. You got to provide context, and it's really good to establish the role of the AI and the end user roles. um, I see someone's asked a question about if I use custom instructions. The only custom instruction that I really use is, I am a Power BI expert, and I would like to have information and output that is beneficial to a Power BI expert. Be as precise as possible and
Mm.
take a deep breath and think before working. It's really interesting. I actually read an article just the other week, which was like, if you give this last line, take a breath and think before you start working, it actually improves the output like something like 40 to 80%, which is wild because that's something that you just tell a person, right? But apparently, generative AI, because it's based around, it's like inputs, also, will accept compliments and things like this, like and encouragement.
But I have actually seen that. You like if you ask for, could you please generate blah 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 blah? Thank you very much. It does a really good job. And then if you go in and just say generate blank, far less, far lower caliber, which is weird to me. Ooh, are you muted? I lost your sound. Did I lose my sound? Uh oh. Hold on. Uh, can people hear me? I can't hear in Injae. Huh?
Hey, look,
Oh,
I'm sorry. Did
okay.
Okay, look, you know what? I was just rambling. I was really excited. Okay, look, did you guys hear me talk about this at all?
No, no, no.
Oh, okay. All right. So
I,
let me just, rewind a little bit. Oh, wow. uh,
I thought it was me. I'm like, oh, I've gone mute.
hey, Chris, thanks for stopping me. I would have kept going. I was like really into it.
And I'm sure it's gold. Now just
Yeah.
lost
Hey, chat, can you hear me
forever, right?
now?
How about now? I can hear you, so that's probably a good sign.
Yeah.
Let's get
Okay.
a thumbs up. They're probably catching up slowly here.
Mm.
Hello. Yes. Okay. There we go.
Okay, fantastic. All right. So data modeling, right? Okay. Once again. Okay. Thanks, guys. Data modeling. So I was trying to be more specific and provide more information into, like the actual prompt. And I only wanted to do one specific thing, which was try to see if you could normalize data into a star schema. So exactly what you asked, Christian. And being more specific, I was like, okay, so the data dictionary is on sheet one, the data is on sheet two. Please normalize into a star schema. There should be fact and dimension tables with a key column, which must be generated, and the dimension table should not contain duplicates. It seems pretty obvious. This is like just what a regular star schema is. I wasn't trying to do anything fancy with like different degrees of normalization or anything like that, but I wanted it to output the M code so that I could just input the M code into, it's like Power Query and get it to work. That was what I wanted to be able to do. And I can tell you right now that that did not work. M code is terrible for ChatGPT at the moment, and I think most people know this. Uh, but what it could do was it could do the data modeling really well. So it could create the fact table and what column should be in the fact table. It
Mm,
could create the dimension tables, and I was talking about the groupings earlier for it's like how it was starting to group a couple of the different columns together. it's already doing that to create dimension tables, like what's the hotel, what's the arrival date, what's the customer reservation, etc. Really interesting. But like it really fell short in terms of the M code. A lot of times it would output like it would output M code with a lot of problems. But the biggest problem that I found personally was this three little dots right here, which is that it would try to output an M code, but when you actually try to copy the M code, or actually have it output the full M code, it would hide a lot of the code in these three dots, right? So you
Something goes in here. I don't know exactly what, but something, right?
yeah, or it would try to, it's like one thing that I did see was that it would try to take a lot of the code and just slam it all together. And
Mm.
Power Query doesn't work this way, where it's like can make lots of different tables in just one query. So it just didn't work for me. But alternatively, I asked it to make this into something that it can be extracted into Excel. So because ChatGPT can already do this, it could let me just download the, it's like hotel bookings, and it was really, really incredible, right? So I had the, it's like data set, and I simply loaded it into Power BI, and this is the output, one to one, just downloaded and it's like loaded into Power BI, and uh the actual data set itself, the Excel file, it's like would be something that would be normalized into multiple different tables, and this isn't the exact one that it's like you're seeing here, because this is 5 tables and not 7. And I could ask it to change the it's like normalization in a way that suited me, suited the actual purpose that I was trying to do. But yeah, like it managed to do this. And the crazy thing is that it also managed to show the work. So it outputs the Python code in order to normalize this. Now, it's not like you can put in the Python code directly into Power Query. I mean, like you can. It's not easy, but you can like load Python and it's like do all of that stuff. But getting Python to work in Power Query in the service is a nightmare. So I don't recommend it. Unless you're on Fabric, where it's like then it's totally fine. But
Then it's magic, right?
yeah, then it's so clean. But
Yeah.
in any case, right, like because Fabric exists, the use case of this is clearly evident. If you can use Python code for data it's like cleansing, then this would be something that you could give to an intern to
Mm.
normalize, right? I mean, of course you need to it's like think about the business logic, right? Does it make sense that the marketing dimension and the payment dimension are separate? For example, maybe they need to be the same. I mean, but that's something that like someone could go in and prompt to change, for example. And I think that's a really, really crazy thing that was possible even like a couple months ago. And yeah,
Well,
okay.
to that end, I think we are going to see a whole world of new Power BI developers because you can now write Python that can load and manage a table all through Python notebooks. I think that's going to radically expand how many people are creating star schemas. So,
And which is a good thing for it's like for performance and all of that good stuff. But it's also
mhm.
like I think one of the things, one of the conclusions that I got out of this was that theory, at a higher level, is now going to be important. Like, what's the difference between first and fourth degree of normalization, for example? When should you move from like a star schema to a snowflake, or what do you do with many to many relationships? Things like this, which are it's like maybe not everything that you cover on the PL300 is going to become more important information for people, because that's what you're going to need to do in order to transform this into something that works better, right? It's not
Yep.
just going to be about if everyone can make a star schema, then it's going to be about how do you make the perfect star schema.
Right. Right. How have you how have you completely cleansed it? How do you have the perfect star schema? How do you have that perfect dynamic row level security already integrated in, right? In one lake security. So
Right, and it's like let's be clear here, right? I think Vanessa has a really, really strong point, which is that look, this seems good, but it's like we can't know, it's like interns can't know 100% just starting out in their first week of doing Power BI what a good star schema is, right? So it's like, um are interns going to take all of our jobs who are just using ChatGPT? No, because the theory is going to be the most important, right?
Yep, yep. And knowing when you look at something that it's not right, you still need experience and knowledge to do that. Where an intern or just straight Chat GPT isn't necessarily going to have those capabilities. So
That's for sure. Ah, yeah.
yeah,
And the last part that I really tried to get it to do was that I was going to ask it to do some analysis, and I told it that you're now a Power BI report developer. This is who you are, and you're going to create a dashboard with this hotel data. Your end user is going to be regional or C-suite level, it's like managers. And as such, you need to create a dashboard that shows statistics, trends, try to come up with some KPIs, try to come up with a couple of visuals and a map. And the output of this was, really, really fascinating to me because it could create KPIs. And as someone who knows absolutely nothing about the hotel industry, it was able to create a whole bunch of different things. Now, here's the part that is a little bit difficult because this seems good. There are
mm,
formulas. You can see there's some places where the formulas didn't render properly or whatever. But it's also like how many of these things are real and how many of these things are, for example, hallucinated, right? That
sure.
is hard to tell. But if you are someone who knows nothing about the business, then this can be a good place to start. I think, right? Like the number of times I've been in a discovery call where I knew exactly nothing about the business. Hopefully, those days will be over where I'll know a little bit about maybe some of the KPIs that they expect. And I thought that was very
Oh,
cool.
that is a great use case for ChatGPT, is to inform you as to, maybe it goes beyond, above and beyond this. Can you define the common terms, but also what are considered like industry standard levels for these,
Right,
right?
exactly. And
Like,
it's like I didn't know that average lead time was, something that is an industry standard in the hotel industry. It's something like number of days between booking and arrival. So, how far ahead do people book their hotels? But that informs, it's like some of the, it's like ways that people should price hotels apparently. I didn't know that. And that would be amazing to know if you're going to a client, it's like conversation with a hotel business. And that was really, really wild for me that they could do this. But
yeah,
continuing onwards, it could also make the visuals right. And this is okay. These are some visuals that it tried to make, and there's an explanation of what the visuals are. I'm sure everyone's seen hundreds of videos about this already, so I'm not going to go too much into this. But what I tried to do was I tried to bring all of this together and I tried to create data storytelling. So I
mm,
was asking ChatGPT to create all the KPIs and visuals in a layout. And the first place that it ended up was in something like this, right? A layout, a wireframe, which is entirely text based, which looks like something from the 1980s. But something that I thought was incredibly cool that it could, it's like think to do something like this and make something like this. Obviously, you can see that, all the visuals are kind of all over the place. Fine. Let's see if we can make this a little bit better. So create a more detailed data story and suggest more visuals to, it's like better match the stories to be for a CEO. He'd like to see high level to low level information following Gestalt principles. I mean, it's a little bit better, but is it even? There's just more stuff. It's just two row, like two
yeah,
columns, right? And so I kept working on this. Make the layout based, 4x3 grid. Okay, it's a little bit more, it's like grid like. Maybe it's a little bit better. But then I started working a lot
mm,
more on this, and this is something that it outputted, and it's like hotel booking analysis, and this is like a wireframe. As you can see from the empty space, it's not ideal, it's not perfect, but this was already something that was much more than it's like I thought it would even be possible. And then of course, one thing that I was thinking about when I was doing this was mockups and wireframes are very, very closely aligned. This might be a wireframe where things go, but a mockup would be something with data. But ChatGPT has a lot of data issues, so I don't want to throw in customer data into there. But what if the metadata is enough? What if it's like they are a hotel company or something like this, and it's not. like proprietary, that the columns that they use are, the number of agents or hotels or whatever. And if that's the case, I started working on prompts which were based around just this page. So in the Excel file that I showed you that there was a data summary and a data set. I stopped uploading the data set and I just started uploading the data summary, and I asked it to generate data and start creating, it's like mockups. And this is one of the examples. And here we go. And yeah, there were a lot of issues, but I want to actually show you this in the actual ChatGPT. So this is one of the first ones that I was doing. It's like the prompt is a little bit smaller. I'm not going to go through all of the prompts really, but I just want you to see the list. This is very similar to what I showed you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it outputs some of the KPIs, and it outputs something that I could potentially use. Not amazing, but it's fine. This was, it's like a different, another one that I did. And I'd like to point out, this is something that I think I did in July, maybe, it's like early September. And this is one of the first ones that I did. And this is maybe mid September, and it progressively comes closer to today. So this is
Okay.
another one that I did. And this is basically the one that I've been doing the whole time. It's basically saying you're an expert dashboard developer with incredible knowledge of UI UX. You're really good at what you do, etc. The purpose of the report is that it'll be a wireframe for our CEO. Please take a look at the uploaded metadata, describe KPIs and visuals. Please make a wireframe following Gestalt principles. Make sure it looks like a BI report with 3 or 4 columns. It's like, here's a color palette. Here's some information about, I want a table that has at least 5 columns.
Mm.
Let's throw some conditional formatting into the table, things like that. And it outputted a lot of really great stuff, some hypothetical KPIs, some proposed visuals. And here's a wireframe. I'm not happy with it, but it is what it is. And then you can try to actually make a
Better.
mock-up better than before, right?
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then but then when you actually ask it to make a mock-up, this was the output, right? Like because it overlays, does that count as an IBCS? I mean, I don't know. Like
Oh, so cute. You tried.
yeah, it was not great. And
Yeah.
it's like, no matter what I tried to do, I couldn't get it to be, it's like really, it's like something that would work. But then I came back, and this is basically the same thing. And this is one of the crazy things about generative AI, in my opinion. Week to week, month to month, it gets better. So this is the same input, and this is the first output of the wireframe. Nothing super special, but then when you ask it to make a mock-up, it doesn't work really well. It just does not make a mock-up. This is still just very generic, doesn't make enough data, still not something you could use for a client. Okay, but this is like 2 weeks later, right? So this actually took me forever to do, because I was, it's like, I think this was the time when ChatGPT was being extremely slow. So every, it's like line
Mm-hmm.
that it did would take forever. And it had to go through multiple iterations to get to where I wanted. You can see that.
Painful.
Yeah, but after a while, it got to a point where I'm like, okay, this is not the end of the world. This is actually something that could potentially be the rudimentary beginnings of a mock-up. Fine. And it only took me like 5 to 10, it's like minutes to really make. And then this is maybe like a month after that. And then I think the most impressive one was, like 2 weeks ago. And this is a mock-up that it generated basically, it's like with the exact same prompt. So if we start here, we can see that it's just basically the same prompt. I think I have like a little bit more stuff about the wireframe is a BI dashboard, so it should be 16:9. It should follow a Z pattern of attention. I add a little bit bits and bobs here and there, but more than anything else, the first wireframe was something like this, which was already much better than most of the other
Yeah.
wireframes. And then it could create a mock-up. You can see a lot of at the first, round, everything is, really packed together. And I had to ask it to explode the values, add some more white space, like a couple times until it got to, it's like a point where I was happy with it. But the fact that it could do this and it could make this, mock-up from metadata immensely impressive. And I think, it's like, I think this is something that is a definite use case.
Yeah.
But the most important thing, I think, is that if you're looking at all of this and you're looking at something like the layout explanation, right? What if you could throw in the layout explanation into ChatGPT to generate a mockup?
Hmm.
That's currently one of the things that I'm working on, and I'm going to try to see if I can make it work. Right now, I don't have anything to show you because right now it doesn't work. But
Okay.
it's like, so this is kind of like where I've been testing, and at the start of this, it's like, Colin, I did tell you, excuse me, I did tell you that I was trying to see if ChatGPT is going to take the work of a Power BI developer. Yeah, maybe some of the things, but like even this in itself is a mock-up, right? Like, is this going to bring the business value? That remains to be seen, right? Like, I try to be as specific as possible. I try to, it's like inform as much as possible what I want and what I need. But it might be that this is for a hotel CEO, honestly, not that, it's like valuable. It just looks good for now. So I think it's not, I don't think the end times are right here for now. This is just, like a very, very simplistic grid. But it's very cool that it could do something like this.
Well, and I mean, think of the first Power BI reports you developed. I mine didn't look that good, so kudos to it for figuring it out, right?
Right, like, I mean, it's like it could have done better, it could have done worse. But there are issues, right? Like, the actual work calculation can time out, and I've done this exact same prompt like 100 times, and I it's like to sorry, is that Nicolaus? Yeah, okay. to,
Yeah.
to, to Nicolaus's point, it's like I could have tried to, it's like work on the prompt a little bit, and I did. It's like the prompts did evolve a little bit, but I also wanted to see what the progress of the prompts would be, how the generative AI would, it's like improved over time, and I thought that was very interesting to go through. And other issues was that sometimes the Excel couldn't load because even though it was like 2 gigabytes, under 2 gigabytes that you can load of actual files, sometimes it would just have problems loading Excel for some reason. So you had to switch between CSVs and things like that. Prompts are not consistent. So I can have this one prompt, right? And I'm testing
Hmm.
using, it's like multiple things. But because it doesn't provide the same prompt, I can't be sure that the quality of what I'm, receiving is going to be the same every time. So Juan, yeah, I did try to create a get Dali to, it's like make a higher quality, it's like Power BI mockup with the layout that you saw earlier, but it hasn't worked really well for me so far, and I'm still trying to figure out what the best way is. So it's still in early stages there. So a lot of issues, like, yeah, it's hard to replicate results, and you can see that a lot of these things look similar to what I showed you just now, but it just didn't get everything right. There's a lot of overlap. There's like the legend which makes everything out of proportion. It's hard to to get it to work all of the time, and it doesn't, right? Like,
Yep.
even on ChatGPT has off days. It doesn't work all the time, which is it is what it is.
Well, I will say that that has been a really funny thing that I've experienced as well. Like I use ChatGPT all the time because I'm great at like outlining things that I want to say, but writing is not necessarily one of my strongest suits. You drop it in an outline and say, "Hey, could you write this up into something nice?" Like more often than not, you get this wonderful like little article written. You do some editing or whatnot, but it's pretty good.
Oh yeah. I mean, personally, I really try to use ChatGPT for LinkedIn content creation, for
Mhm.
YouTube content creation and stuff, and I can't do it. Like, it's it works okay for me, but like one of the things that I do a lot on LinkedIn is I like to make the lines like kind of narrow down as I'm writing posts, and this
Yeah.
is something that I've done, and I kind of copied a lot of it's like other content creators on LinkedIn to do this, but ChatGPT for cannot replicate this for no matter what I try. It's like no matter how many it's like different prompts that I put in, it cannot it's like change the length of the text, or at least I haven't figured out how to. So yeah, like I personally
Oh,
don't
that's
use
interesting.
ChatGPT for LinkedIn. It's also one of the things that keeps me honest, I think, because I have to like write out each line and make it smaller, and it's like
Oh,
I find that fun.
well,
Okay, so
I didn't know that was a thing, so that's interesting.
it's like it's like a LinkedIn text trick because it looks nice. It's easier to get people to read. Okay,
Sure.
so Chris, how much time do we have left?
Well, technically, we are at time, but if we can keep going. I don't have as hard of a stop as I do most days. So
Okay, so that's great. So I'm going to keep
yeah.
going. It's like people in the chat. I do apologize if you have to leave. You can always watch the, recording, but I just wanted to show a couple of things that you can do other than lookups with ChatGPT. Now, most people will know what DAX Studio is. It's an external tool. And okay, so this is in the wrong place. Instead of import metrics, it should be looking at export metrics. And if you export the metrics and it's like use Vertipack Analyzer, which is a Excel macro that SQL BI provides, you can get a wonderful, it's like Excel with all of the metadata from Power BI. It's like with like tables, with relationships, with most importantly, the DAX functions. Now, I was looking at some of the content that Brian Julius from is it Enterprise DNA? Okay, from it's like eDNA was making about.
I think he's moved on from there, but
Has he? Okay, so in any case, right? I was looking at Brian Julius and I was looking at his stuff, and he
mm-hmm.
was talking about documentation with
Yep.
ChatGPT, and this is a little bit of what that could look like, and
Mm.
it's really incredible. So I basically just took this, I just took this
Output.
Excel file, right,
Yeah.
with all of the DAX, and I just copied the table. I didn't even upload the Excel file. And here's what I did: I copied that table and I pasted it into ChatGPT in a terrible format. So, and all I asked it to do was, can you please take the following, make it into documentation, remove any NAs or blanks from each section, have proper inline values, add a section that explains the purpose of the measure. And if you do this, it will post out something that looks pretty okay for documentation. It's not great because it only takes a look at what the measure name is, where the table name is, and things like that. What's the format string and things like that. I can't always tell you what the purpose of it is, but there is an extension called Fancy GPT, where basically
Mm.
you can, it's like it's just an extension for your ChatGPT. Make your ChatGPT fancy. You click on it, and okay, I'm going to exclude the first message, which is just my prompt, and then you've got documentation that you can export into a PDF. And this is something that it's like I saw from Brian, and this is honestly not amazing in terms of it's like documentation because what is the purpose of measure documentation? To know what it's for, where it's being used, and things like that. But for
Right.
getting all of this out there for a place to start, this is insanely good. I'm so happy that this is something that you can do. And okay, so the problem
Well, it
with
gives you
this,
a baseline to start from, right?
hmm right? Like absolutely. But the problem with this is, of course, that it's ChatGPT. You might not be able to put all of your DAX code into there. It's like the, it might be that the DAX code is just too long for an output. And I've tried multiple ways to really get this going. But if you try to ask it to output a Word document, it's going to output something like this. So, I created I asked it to create a PDF of all of the documentation and just, post it on there. And it gave me this wonderful table on the first page of the PDF on a one-page PDF, and everything is just hidden because it's just an A4, and that was basically what it was. And so ChatGPT isn't consistent across all outputs either, which is
Mm.
important to know. But it's also the fact that it can already do something like this in honestly minutes is pretty insane. And then, of course, I have a little bit where I was talking about writing code. Now, people are going to have mixed results with writing code, but I can tell you that writing M and Vega, which is Deneb code, is horrible.
Yeah.
Everyone in the chat must know this. It's like, if you're someone like me and you love visualizations, you love Deneb, it's real hard to get, it's like Deneb code to work with ChatGPT.
Oh
That
no.
yeah, that meme is so relevant, and honestly, it works really well for Python and HTML and SQL. I found, it's like that it was able to do so much with, it's like these three languages. DAX is like DAX is a kind of a hit or miss for me. Like I found
Hmm.
that sometimes it does really well, but sometimes it doesn't, because for example, if you're going through time intelligence and you ask it to use offset, doesn't know what offset is, simply because it wasn't trained on that functionality yet, and that's okay. But it's also like Power BI moves so fast that if you're trying to train, if you're trying to get, it's like Power ChatGPT to, it's like output something, and the output is not something that's it's being trained on, it's really
Hmm.
hard to do.
Sure.
Uh, but as you can see through the whole thing, Python it does really well. HTML it did amazingly well for me as well. So I recently created this one, it's like YouTube video, which was how to create this, it's like a dashboard. A lot of the things that I do use here is like Deneb code and, it's like
Mm.
HTML and stuff. But you see the cover art that's changing. That's just HTML code. And the
Wow.
only thing I really asked ChatGPT to do was to create HTML code with rounded corners so that it would fit into that's all I asked. And like
And that worked.
home run, it's like every single time, it's like it was really great. Every single HTML code that I asked it to do, that's been simple, it's been able to do. And most of the things that I've asked it to do, which are much more complicated, like an animated SVG or something like that, is hard, because
Yeah.
trying to get it to explain what to do. And now ChatGPT can use this vision functionality to what do you call it, in order to look at an image and maybe write some code off of that. I've seen a lot of people post on LinkedIn, oh, ChatGPT can now look at this, like whiteboard of a, it's like an architecture, and write code based off of it. And that has not worked for me. But it's like I'm hoping that eventually it will get there, where we'll be able to actually upload an image of a visualization, and it will be able to generate code off of that. But we're absolutely not there yet. It's like,
Yeah.
will that actually work? Not yet.
Not today at any rate, right?
Yeah, like I mean, I'm hoping that it will. I think the fact that something like that is even possible is very cool. But yeah, so that's basically all of the things that I've tested with ChatGPT and Power BI as well. But what does all of this mean? What does all of this mean for the average Power BI developer, right? In my opinion, I think it's going to mean that technical skills are going to be more democratized, right? There's going to be
Hmm.
increased efficiency, human error is going to be reduced, all the things that you'll see in like 1,000 PowerPoints on LinkedIn. But for the Power BI developer, I really think that it means that we need to upskill for more things, right? Like you need to upskill your level of, it's like understanding of the ETL, of data modeling. You need to be able to improve your communication skills, because things that ChatGPT can't do, like actually gather requirements,
Mm.
is going to become more important. Because yes, you could say that business is going to, it's like use ChatGPT to make reports themselves, but let's be real. If they're gonna make $7 million, it's like what like if they're going to make decisions that are going to be worth millions of dollars, then they're going to need someone to actually, it's like take responsibility for that kind of, it's like tool. And
Hmm.
that means that Power BI developers are always going to be, it's like necessary. But the way that we communicate, the way that we, it's like gather requirements, things like this are going to become, more important, I think, down the line. I also
Yeah.
think that governance and ethics of AI and how to use it and things like that are going to be things that will affect us. Because I mean, like you've seen today that there's a whole bunch of things that we could use for Power BI developers, but that means that generative AI will be a part of our work stream as much as anyone else's. And I think it's good to start getting ready for that.
Uh, Amen, NJ. I think that is so true. And us, one point in time, engineers had like codes of conduct and standards that we all had to meet and be able to like execute on. And just because AI is here, just because we've done self-service and we've done low code and we've talked into no code, and now we're going to have like AI code, that doesn't mean those standards don't still exist. And like we have to be out there helping continue to bring that forward. And I think that's I think that is just fine. You know, that makes good sense. We should be out there doing that.
Yeah, like for sure. Honestly, I think more than anything else, this isn't the end of Power BI developers or anything like that. It's really
No.
just, us doing more things differently, and I'm really excited for it. It's like I can't tell you how excited I was to try ChatGPT when it came out, when Code Interpreter came out, when the Vision stuff came out, and I gotta tell you, like I okay, I kind of look, maybe not as much. Maybe I don't feel as much of a programming dinosaur as Donald does, but I personally think that a lot of the skills that I have might not be as useful. I think everyone can see that some of the things might not be as useful, but that doesn't mean that I won't be as useful, right? I think I'll be even more useful, and that's just what I believe. I think that generative AI isn't going to take more jobs; it's going to make more jobs. But I could be wrong. We'll see.
Yeah, we sure will, won't we? All right. Well, thank you so much, NJ. Before we go, anything for the audience or viewers to take away or think about, or where you're next? Anything? Any parting words?
Not particularly. Hey, everyone, if you've stuck around this long, it's like thanks for it's like listening to me, and it's like Chris. I guess if you guys want to see me in person, I'll be speaking at it's like Data Science Summit in Warsaw in November. But other than that, don't be too scared of generative AI. Like,
give it a shot, right? You just gotta make it happen. So
yeah, guys, thank you so much for being with us here today. Have a really great day. And you have any questions, or you want to say actually talk about something, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to uh, you know talk and share my thoughts.
awesome. Thanks so much, NJ.
All right,
Everyone,
thanks, Chris.
peace. Baker Tilly Digital combines strategic industry insight and advanced technical expertise to uncover and solve your digital transformation challenges. If you're interested in learning more, check out our website at bakertilly.com/digital.